Hello board, I'm Ellen McCloskey and I'm here today to talk about religion in schools and all of the different current trends that are currently in place in schools. I wanted to start with a little bit of a background on the history of religion in schools. So according to Pew Research Center 2019, in the 19th century, Protestants and Catholics frequently fought over Bible reading and prayer in public schools. And the disputes then were over which Bible and what prayers were appropriate to use in the classroom. And so there were some Catholics that were troubled by the use of King James Version of the Bible, and that was favored by the Protestants. And so then fights were breaking out and churches were being burnt over these ideas. And a number of people actually died in this violence, and several Catholic churches were burned. And so then in the 20th century, the debate over the teaching of the theory of evolution began, and the Supreme Court determined that the First Amendment's Establishment Clause and the Free Exercise Clause, which is that Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, applied to both Cantwell versus Connecticut, 1940, and Everson versus Board of Education of Ewing Township. And going back to the 19th century, similar conflicts also erupted during the 1850s in Boston and other parts of New England. And so then in the early 20th century, liberal Protestants and their secular allies, they were battling back and forth over whether biology classes should teach Charles Darwin's theory of evolution or not. A history of religion in schools continued. In McCollum versus Board of Education 1948 and Zork versus Clausen 1952, both dealt with religious teaching occurring during the school day. In the first case, McCollum versus Board of Education, the High Court invalidated the practice of having religious instructors who were coming in to the schools to teach religious lessons during the school day, and these parents had requested them to come in, and so the court determined that that was not something that should be happening. And a key factor in the court's decision was the lessons took place in the schools. And then the Zork versus Clausen was happening 4 years later, and the court upheld an arrangement by which public schools excused students, so they let them go during the day to a different location to have these religious studies, and they determined that that was okay because it was not occurring within the school building during the school day. Engel versus Vitale, 1962, ruled that school-sponsored prayer violates the Establishment Clause, and that's according to the Pew Research Center 2019 as well. And it stretched into prohibiting Bible reading that is not for literature purposes and school-sponsored prayer at football games. And it's often difficult to determine whether religious activities or Bible readings are considered indoctrination or school sponsorship of activities. Sometimes those are blurry lines. And religious groups can engage in free speech when it's not considered harassment and they do not violate non-discrimination policies. So, for example, on the difficulty of determining indoctrination or school sponsorship of activities, a class can use the Bible as it's being taught as a piece of literature, but it cannot be used to further religious studies. And so can it be taught without a bias for or against the idea that the Bible is religious truth? Can students be compelled to participate in a Christmas-themed music program? Sometimes students themselves, rather than teachers, administrators, or coaches, bring faith into school activities. So, for example, when a student is at a commencement ceremony and goes ahead and expresses their own gratitude to God during their speech, or a football player that gets all the players together and prays in the middle of the football field, is the school legally responsible for this religious expression? The next topic that I want to discuss is school prayer. And so going back to Engel versus Vitale in 1962, the Supreme Court held that the Establishment Clause prohibited the recitation of school-sponsored prayer in public schools. And so they were using, Engel schools were using a prayer during the school day, and they were having everybody recite this prayer. And so the court was emphasizing that what they saw wrong was that the students were asked to recite this prayer during the day, and it was a sponsorship of a religious activity by a government organization. And then in Wallace versus Jaffrey, 1985, and Croft versus Perry, 2009, they were looking at the moment of silence for a secular purpose. And so most often what they found is that if it's a moment of silence that is completely secular, that students are not asked to recite specific prayers, or they're not asked to think about specific things, and it's a completely unbiased secular moment of silence, then it is something that is allowable. And then with the Santa Fe Independent School District versus Doe, 2000, it looked at prayer at football games. And so they ruled that schools cannot sponsor student-recited prayer at high school football games, but that's something that the students could do themselves as long as it's not school-sponsored. And then in Lee versus Weissman, 1992, they looked at prayer commencement ceremonies. And so the school had invited a clergyman to give the commencement speech, and that person then led a school-sponsored prayer at this commencement ceremony. And the court then determined that since this was a school-sponsored activity, that students were being coerced into participating in this, and therefore it was violating their rights. And so then they also stated that prayer during your university commencement ceremonies have not been brought up yet, but that's probably something that's coming in the future. School prayer continued. According to the U.S. Department of Education, 2020, students may pray when they're not engaged in school activities or instruction, and that's subject to the same rules designed to prevent material disruption of the educational program. So as long as schools are making it clear-cut that any type of prayer, students are allowed to engage in it when they are not preventing that material disruption of the educational program, and they're able to organize prayer in religious groups, but they must not be school-sponsored or have any sort of bias. And school employees, when they're acting in their career roles, must not encourage or discourage prayer. And along these same lines, moments of silence are not to be encouraged, discouraged, or required, and schools can provide religious accommodations. So students are able to pray at lunch, during recess, during their lunch hour. That's just something that they can't be forced into. So they do have the right to do those things. It just can't be school-sponsored, and they don't have to be forced into doing it. And then teachers are able to take part in religious activities such as prayer, even during their workday at a time when it's permissible to engage in other private conduct, such as making a personal telephone call. But it just can't be something that they are teaching to other students, and they can't show any sort of bias when they're in their government position. Students are able to express their beliefs about their own religion in their homework and artwork, and when teachers are grading these things, they're supposed to look at it from a completely unbiased opinion. And school officials may not mandate or organize prayer at graduation or select speakers that would invoke this or make students feel like they're coerced into being there. And for providing religious accommodations, schools are able to go ahead and provide students with their time. So if you have a student who is needing to leave to meet their, to pray throughout certain parts of the day during certain parts of the year, then they're allowed to be dismissed to do that, just as students who are of another religion would be allowed to do that as well. For the Pledge of Allegiance and student speech, in the Elk Grove United School District versus Newdow, 2004, Under God in the Pledge of Allegiance was placed in. And so the court, Newdow, then went ahead and determined that that was against his child's rights, and they should not have to say Under God within the Pledge of Allegiance. And so he brought the lawsuit because, or the court ruled that Newdow lacked standing to bring the suit because he did not have legal custody of his daughter. And so The four justices then expressed the view that the Constitution permitted the recitation of the pledge with the phrase "under God" in public schools. And in Adler, so as long as school officials did not encourage or explicitly approve the contents, these courts have upheld religious content in student commencement speeches. And then looking at Adler versus Duval County School Board, 1996, religious content in commencement speeches. So there was a school system at a Florida high school in which the senior class went ahead and selected a class member to deliver a commencement speech, and school officials did not influence the choice of the speaker, and they did not screen the speech. And under those circumstances, the appeals court ruled that the school was not responsible for the religious content that was included in the student's commencement speech. And also looking at one leading case is ACLU versus Black Horse Pike Regional Board of Education, where the senior class of a New Jersey public school selected a student speaker without knowing in advance the contents of the student's remark. And so the court determined that students attending the graduation ceremony were coerced to engage in the student-led prayer, as they would be if the prayer were offered by a member of the clergy. And so they determined that that was against and the graduating students' rights to religious and expressive freedom should prevail over the Establishment Clause concerns. And then looking at the Bannon versus School District of Palm Beach County, 2004, the 11th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals ruled that Florida school officials were right to order the removal of student-created religious messages and symbols from a school beautification project. The court reasoned that the project was not intended as a forum for the expression of students' private views, but rather as a school activity for which school officials would be held responsible for. So going back to how much responsibility does the school have in these situations, and were they truly sponsoring it? And looking at religion in the curriculum, there's a strong distinction between religious activities for religious sentiments and values, and then teaching about religion. So it goes back to that idea that I visited earlier about how a Bible reading can be used as literature, but it cannot be used for teaching about the religion, cannot be used for religious sentiments and values, so it cannot be used to further someone's religious experience. And looking at Epperson versus Arkansas in 1968, that was focusing on creationism and evolution. And so the court had ruled that Arkansas could not eliminate from the high school biology curriculum the teaching of the theory that mankind descended from a lower order of animals, and Arkansas's exclusion of that was based on a preference for the account of creation in the book of Genesis and violated the state's constitutional obligation of religious neutrality. So by saying that they were not going to teach this, they were then taking their own stance, and they were not having this unbiased opinion. And looking at these Bible readings within the curriculum, such Bible study programs have generally been held unconstitutional because the courts conclude they teach the Bible as religious truth, or they are invoking those religious sentiments and are not being used to teach about religion. Another kind of hot topic in religion in the curriculum is those Christmas-themed music programs. So, for a holiday music program to be constitutionally sound, the courts maintain that school officials must ensure the predominance of secular considerations, and they want the schools to look at the educational value behind the songs that are being picked and the musical quality of the pieces, and the schools must also be sensitive to the idea that some students may feel coerced to participate in the program, and that no student, they've also ruled that no student should feel like they have to participate in these different songs that are going on or in these different programs. And looking at multiculturalism in the Scores versus Klein 2006, city officials intended to promote cultural pluralism in the highly diverse setting of the New York City public schools, and the court concluded that a reasonable observer would understand that the star and crescent combination in menorah had a secular as well as religious meaning. The judicial panel ruled that the policy, therefore, did not promote Judaism or Islam, and did not disregard Christianity. So these were a set of parents that had come in and determined that that they were just looking at specific religions and were not being inclusive of all religions within the school. And then kind of one of the more